We're going to talk today about planning for 2021, and I have a few things here to talk about, but I'd like to pick your brain a little bit and see what questions come to mind when you think about 2021 and your planning and what you want to get out of the year, so we can structure it accordingly around that. Hi, Reagan.
Oh, there we go. Hi.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's good. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. I just said, I don't know if you heard it. I just said, Celia is coming on. I just said, I want to pick everybody's brain a little bit. We're going to talk about 2021 planning. And I wanted to pick everybody's brain a little bit on what topics we should zoom in. I think Amanda was talking about it last week already a little bit. And I assume most of you guys went through Ignite, correct? So you've gotten the basics on that. Let's see who else is joining. Somebody popped up and disappeared again. Okay.
Marcus, what is Ignite?
Ignite is, well, this is Ignite. So that's the first training program that you can do at KW. So there's two major training initiatives. The first one is Ignite. That's designed for new agents. You're licensed and you really don't know, they don't teach you anything that's really useful when you get your license. So now what do you do now? And Ignite is a program that's designed to take you through the steps from where you're at after you get licensed and get you into production. So the format is usually an 8-week course. I think the last time it was a little bit more compressed with 2 classes a week, but it's 8 sessions, and it's taught by agents from the Market Center, and it's designed to get you off the ground, get you to the blast off. Bridget, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
I'm covering for Amanda today, and I'd like to pick everybody's brain. We're talking today about planning for 2021. And instead of me just rattling off things, I'd like to hear a little bit from you what your questions are, what you have in mind, and what when you think about planning for 2021, what are the big question marks that you have in mind? Avi also joined us. Do I say that right, Avi?
It's Avi.
Avi, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. So who wants to go first and give me some ideas about questions that you guys might have for 2021 planning? There's in my mind, there's 2 big clusters. One of it is the business planning, which is pretty straightforward math. We can go through that. That's basically talking about, what we covered at the team meeting today. How do you convert from leads to clients to transactions to closings, and how does that math look like? And the other big portion of planning, and I think Amanda covered it last week a little bit, is planning your activities. What are you doing on a daily basis? Is one of these 2 a bigger question to you? Should we cover one of those first?
Just from my point of view, that second piece and planning and like what your day, what your week, what your month should look like is hard for me to kind of wrap my head around. And I know no day is the same in this business, but I guess planning the certain things that you should always be doing on a regular day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, I guess.
Okay. Are you a person who is working with daily list of things that you're doing, or are you more freestyling it?
I am freestyling.
Okay, all right. Well, me too. I'm not I'm an engineer by trade, so I think that's what they taught me in school, to be structured, but I think my natural style is not very structured. And so it changes a little bit, what I'm doing depending on where my priorities are shifting. But there's one thing that, there's actually a few things that you have to always make time for. And the number one thing is always lead generating. So if you're not, in my book, if you haven't generated any leads that day, you haven't been working. So that's where it all starts. And lead generation can have a lot of different forms, depending on who you ask, and of any successful agent, they will tell you a different thing, from calling your sphere to open houses to joining a charity and going to events and networking in person. COVID, of course, has changed everything. I believe it doesn't really matter as long as you do it. It's a little bit like going to the gym. It doesn't really matter, what you do at the gym, as much as it matters that you're actually going, or some sort of workout. So I believe you have to pick a method for lead generation that suits your style, something that you like and enjoy. I'm comparing it again with working out. If you hate running or swimming, and you pick swimming for your workout, you will last about, I don't know, depending on your level of commitment, I'll give you 3 weeks before you find an excuse to stop doing it. So, pick something that you enjoy, and something that you can grow into, so that doing it on a daily basis is actually not something you dread, but actually something that you're looking forward to. Does that make some sense?
So yesterday I watched the business planning clinic
Mm-hmm.
that afternoon, and it started off with a short video from Gary Keller. And one of the things that he said that really hit home for me was that great agents have a good day before noon.
Mm-hmm.
So like, he's got a structured part of his day where he does all the routine stuff in the morning, and then the fly by the seat of your pants stuff is all done in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that way he benefits from both sides of the brain, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. So, my personal thinking is it depends a little bit on your own style. And so, when I started out, I just took my Google Calendar and I just filled it up, for the entire week. You can do these recurring appointments. And I just filled it up and time blocked my entire calendar. I'm not doing this anymore because it became so much second nature to me that it's just burned into my brain. I can't I can't even get it out of there anymore. So I'm freestyling it now a little bit more. But what Gary Keller is talking about is basically a function of your daily energy level, and you have to get to know yourselves a little bit. And when your energy is high, I am the most productive late morning. So I usually start out with things that are a little bit more quiet. If I have to work on some resources that I'm providing for clients, then I will typically do that in the morning, quickly answering a few emails just to get important and urgent stuff out of the way. I'll do that. I'll leave the rest of the emails for later in the day when I'm more tired. I just cherry pick the stuff that is urgent and important, because that I need to get that out of the way, A, because my clients expect it from me, and B, because it makes me feel better, that at least have gotten through the list. But then you should devote some time for training. If you're early in this game, then I highly recommend doing scripts practice on a regular basis. How many of you do have scripts books? One. Reagan, I see. We got five people here with no screen.
What's
I
a
have-
script book specifically? Like I have the scripts from Ignite and then I downloaded some from the
Hi, Josie.
command like resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, KW has actually 3 entire binders that you can order online.
Oh,
There's some were buried on KWU. They're not easy to find, but you'll find them. One is called Scripts for Buyers, one is Scripts for Sellers, and one is, I believe, called Lead Generation.
okay.
And they're like $20, and they're spiral bound. I have them as PDF files, so if you guys want the PDFs, I can email them to you. Just shoot me an email. My address is m.auerbach@kw.com. So my first name m.auerbach@kw, and I'll send you the PDF files. What I will say about the scripts books is I definitely recommend reading them back to back, because they're scripts for basically any situation that you can think of, and reading those and going through the logic of how do you respond to certain questions or objections will avoid that moment when a client is saying something and you're not sure how to respond. There's some scripts in there that are very good for you to memorize. The KW recommendation is to memorize them verbatim at first and then learn how to make them your own. Again, for me, that's just a second.
Mhm.
I just like to learn the nature of the script so I know how to respond and then use my own words. But definitely spend time every day, half an hour reading scripts, and ideally find a script partner and then practice script. So that can be just Reagan calling Josie and doing scripts practice for half an hour. One of you is an agent, the other one is a client, and you just pretend. And you go ring, ring, hello, and you start talking. And this is incredibly helpful because it gets you, there's only so many things that can come up in a conversation. And, after a while, you have covered all of them. So there's nothing clients can throw in your face that you don't know you have an answer to. Sorry, somebody had a question.
I did have a question. There's so many scripts that has thrown out with, just here and there. Everyone has different scripts. You have the shift scripts, you have the bold scripts, you have KW scripts. And for a new agent, where do you really begin? What's the basic scripts to get you going at least? Because it's so overwhelming with so many that are offered.
Yeah, so I recommend you start with the buyer scripts. It is generally, I think, the natural progression that you start working with buyers. When I started out, I started on a team, and as a buyer's agent, and that is something that I absolutely recommend, because A, you have the support from the team, and B, you can just focus on the buyer side and get really good on that. Because 5 years ago I was basically in your situation, and I remember it feels like drinking from not one fire hose but from 3 fire hoses. And if you can narrow it down, it definitely helps. So just my recommendation, focus on working with buyers, and just really immerse yourself in that environment. And you have to work your way through the scripts. Most of them, half of them are garbage. Many of them are just not good. Some just don't match your personal style. But read all of them, and when you look through my scripts books, there's many that I've marked up and highlighted. Those are the ones that I just personally like, and then I go deeper on those scripts and I practice them, and I make them mine. So over time, you're not using a script anymore. Over time, it's just your natural response. All of you are very scripted. If you have situations that I'm not a parent, but I'm sure some of you have kids. So you have your scripts that you use with your kids, every day the same routine. You say the same thing 1,000 times. That is what a script is. And it makes our job a whole lot easier because you know how to respond. clients start formulating a question, you already have the whole script popping up in your mind. You already know the whole thing, what to say. And yeah, it's going to require work. You have to work through the pile. But once you're through it the first time and you weeded out the stuff that you don't like, you'll find the scripts that you like. It starts getting repetitive. It starts getting easy. Does that make sense, Josie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So go ahead.
Sorry. You suggested starting off as a buyer's agent. Now we know that the book and everyone says, try to master the listing. That's where most of your income gets really generated, because you can not only, obtain the listing, but probably sell the person property as well. But you're saying is probably just get experience off from the back, just working with buyers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives you credibility when you work with a seller and a listing. It feels completely different, because a lot of it that happens on the listing side has to do with marketing and a process. A lot of what you do on the buying side has to do, ironically, with you're dealing with people and selling. And or educating them, consulting them, advising them. So you gain a lot of experience from working with buyers, because now when you walk into a house with buyers, how buyers respond to certain things, because you've been in that place with your buyers 1,000 times. And so now you talk to a seller and they have a certain idea about how to stage their home, and you can confidently tell them, I know from experience, if you leave it like this, buyers are going to walk in here and they're going to say, oh my God. So it gives you that experience level that you need in working with sellers is a little bit more challenging, because they vet you a little bit more. And I think you get your experience and your street creds from working with buyers. This is why I would start there. I've done over $10 million in production a year as a buyer's agent, and you get to the point where it's very, very much it's a process. You just keep working through it. So scripts practice.
I just have a question, Marcus.
Yep.
Being a buyer's agent in this kind of market, and I don't want to derail the whole conversation, but I'm really nervous because I know starting out you represent buyers, and every house I hear about 10 offers, 12 offers, minimum 5 offers. I'm scared I'm going to spend my whole first year chasing homes with buyers, and it's just so competitive. How do you make sure that you're successful when it's, I guess I would say, easier to be the listing agent these days?
No, it's not easier. It's just different. The challenge is different. Working, look at it from the point of view from a buyer. If you are worried as an agent, what is your buyer supposed to think? So your job is to make your guys successful and to guide them through the process. And you know how to do this, and if you don't, then here's the resource to figure out how to do that. But it's not more difficult. It's just a different challenge. The last two accepted offers that I had this week and the prior week, both of them were non-competing. We made offers on properties that had no other offer than ours. So very often you're in a situation where you're competing with a lot of other offers, but that is exactly that situation where your clients rely on you and on your skill and your expertise in order to make them successful. And I'm not formally tracking my success rate with buyers, but I would say I win 2 out of 3 bidding wars probably, because because of the preparation for that. You don't win bidding wars without being prepared for that. You have to, it all starts out with having a good education. Now we're really digressing, but let's go down that rabbit hole. It all starts out with having a good relationship with your clients. So step number 1 in my book is always a formal buyer's consult. So you're meeting with your clients. I do this on a Zoom call these days, and you are walking them through the process. You're explaining what's going on in the marketplace. You are showcasing some examples of properties that went through bidding wars. So when it happens, they understand the process, they're comfortable with it, they're expecting to be in competition, and they know how to deal with it because you've already prepped them for that. So you do a formal buyer's consultation before you even go out and see the first property. I will always try to avoid just, running out and seeing a property. Sometimes you get that random phone call. They say, hey, I want, they treat you like you're the hired help. And they're like, hey, I want to see property 123 Main Street. And can you meet me there in 2 hours? And that's absolutely not how I like to work. I will fight that tooth and nail, because you're just a hired help at that point. So I may do one showing, but then I put my foot down, and the next step is, okay, we're meeting for a buyer's consultation. And, I'm providing education to you. I'm your guide. I'm showing you, I'm your steward. I'm helping you through this process. And 95% of the people are super excited that somebody actually takes the time to educate them and walk them through the process. And then you have some know-it-alls that don't want to hear any of that. They already know how to do it. And quite frankly, I don't want to work with somebody like that, because they're always going to fight you. And I'm here to educate and help and consult my clients and make them successful. What's the point if they don't want to listen to me? So weed them out right away. But it all starts, I cannot stress that enough, it all starts with a good buyer's consultation, because you can tell after they have spent an hour with you, listening to you, talking about the market, talking about how to deal with competitive offers, talking about the process, talking about things they didn't even think about, like home inspection, appraisal, and title company, and how that all works together. They're like, there's a lot more to this than we thought to, and we have found one who is very knowledgeable about that and who is taking the time to educate us and explain things and put us at ease, because now we understand. So that's your basis, that's your foundation. At this point, you have created rapport, and they trust you, and they understand that you understand your stuff. That's very important. If I contrast that to people that just made me go show them houses and I'm trying to educate them on the fly, it's always very difficult. And not that it cannot be done, but it's a lot harder, and they are less likely to take your advice. So if you follow that process, you didn't have a buyer's consultation in the beginning, and you step right into I show you houses, I guarantee you what's going to happen is you run into a competitive bidding situation, and they know it all better anyways, because they have not accepted you as their coach, mentor, guide, educator through that process. So that is always step number 1. And if I track back the problems that I had, or Chris, my transaction coordinator, had to work with, they always go back on not having had a buyer's consultation to begin with. So that's step number 1. And then it's about having a systematic process, and helping them to understand the inventory, helping them to read the inventory, talking about how important it is to understand days on market. It's, as you know, it's way different if a property got listed on Thursday and you look on showing time and they got 31 showings between Saturday and Sunday. Completely different scenario than if something is listed for 90 days and you look at the whole week and they don't have a single showing. Completely different situation. Does that answer some of it, Bridget? Okay. Where were we at? We were talking about what to do every day, right? I can't hear anybody, by the way. Everybody's muted.
You had said lead gen every day, then training with scripts and practicing your scripts.
Yeah. You can get lost in a lot of other stuff that is not productive. So one of the things, you're all entrepreneurs here, you run your own business. You have to learn to differentiate between activities that will give you results and activities that are just busy work. You know, at the end of the day, always ask yourself, what do I have to show for after today? Does that question make sense? At the end of a workday, what did I accomplish today? And when you're critical with yourself, and I really encourage you to do that, because you got to coach yourself to some extent. When you're critical with yourself, you will notice that you spent a lot of time doing things that didn't yield anything tangible. You know, you've been busy doing something, obviously, but you know, it's you have to focus on the results. That's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. It's paychecks and getting at the closing table. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't lead to paychecks that you can spend time on. And, you know, it's not always directly related to a paycheck, but always ask yourself, how did I spend my day today? Did I lead gen? Did I practice and learn scripts? Did I get better in what I'm doing? Did I book appointments? Did I go to appointments or had a Zoom call? Did I negotiate deals? You know, those are the things that you're doing. Everything else is just noise, and, you know, consider it a hobby. You know, it's stuff that you do in your lunch break. But those are the things that in the end ultimately will lead to a paycheck. Brad Yates went through the command functionality about the lead funnel. Did that make sense to everybody? Were there questions that you had about that process?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So working, I don't know how to phrase it though. So I figured out what I want my CGI to be, and from that get my net income. And I'm struggling with conversion rates. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it has some general numbers for conversion for appointments and then appointments to listings. Are those good figures to use, 70-75% range, or is that aggressive for where we are?
No, I think that is so individual that it's very hard to standardize that. So was Brad saying today that he's got 30,000 leads and on the top of his funnel? Did I hear that correctly? Grady's nodding.
Yeah, he said 30,000, 33,000, I believe.
Yeah. So that was like, what? You know, so maybe I classify a lead differently. A lead to me is when I have a name and a phone number, and somebody is making, you know, expressing a desire of doing something with real estate. That's a lead. I wouldn't even know what to do with 33,000. So, you know, I generate maybe 3 to 5 leads a week, and you know, they have different qualities to them. You know, some of them are more urgent than others. Some just go in the database for, hey, we want to do something next year. No, you know, but 33,000 is just crazy to me. Your conversion rate depends on your, you know, what you qualify as a lead in the first place, and then on the process and how you convert them. And so, you know, I have a very high conversion rate because I only consider something a lead that is a person that wants to do something, that has expressed a desire. Just obtaining a contact information from somebody, that doesn't qualify them as a lead, in my opinion. A lead to me is somebody who wants to do something with real estate. And so that if we stay with the buying side, because most likely that's where you're going to find most of your success, is if somebody wants to do something, and you can take this out of the MREA, they're most likely not even going to interview a second agent. If you're responsive to them, and if you don't offend them and you provide what they need, they're going to work with you. That's the default. I think it's 72% will only interview one agent. So, you have somebody who wants to buy a house, you say, okay, that's great. The first thing that I usually do with new clients is setting up a buyer's consultation. These days I usually do that on a Zoom call. What day of the week and what time would be convenient for you? And they either are super happy that you're suggesting that, because nobody has ever offered to spend time with them and talk to them about what they actually want to do, or they're going to ask you more questions about what that Zoom call is about. And then the answer is, well, we'll talk about the marketplace, what's going on there. We'll talk about your goals. What you guys are looking for in terms of real estate? What's important to you? I want to get to know you a little bit, your personalities, your communication style, your expectations. And then I want to make sure we go over the process step by step, and we cover any and all questions that you might have or concerns about the process. So we'll cover the whole thing. And that's basically the agenda for the meeting. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're interested in all of these things. And then you set your buyer's consultation. So there is not really much of an opportunity to lose a lead. So my mindset towards a lead is that, yeah, I'm going to work with you. There's no conversion. It's one-to-one. Unless I hate you, in that case, I'm not going to work with you, or you seem to be very difficult to work with. But of course, if you start out with 33,000 leads that you generate on Facebook, those are very, 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 very cold leads. You have to nurture them for a long time before they will actually express a desire to do something. Does that answer the question, Kevin?
Yeah, to a degree it does. In the command, in that goal setting, the conversion rate based on averages from lead to getting a listing appointment or buyer's appointment is only 5%. That's the default suggestion. Yeah. So if you had 5% of 30,000, I think you're doing okay. But 5%, I think I've got one person in my database, and I don't even think I did that right. So yeah, that's 5% of the general population, because that's about the percentage that will actually do something with real estate. So as I said, it depends a little bit on what you call a lead. If you just I don't know, download 1,000 people from your neighborhood, and those are your leads, and you convert 5% of them every year, you're doing a good job. All right, maybe we'll circle back a little bit about planning for 2021. For many years my planning was very simple. I would just think in terms of how many people do I talk to on a daily basis, or connect to somehow, and how many appointments am I going to have every week, and the rest of it beyond that actually kind of falls in place. That happens automatically. You can try and plan that out as well. But if you just follow the Ignite book, and Kevin will have to get you caught up on that. But if you during Ignite, they say contact 10 people every day. If you actually contact 10 people every day and have a real estate conversation with them, you can't help it but being very successful. That's just gonna happen. The reality is, and that comes out during Bold. Bold is the other big class that you hear a lot at KW. It comes out in Bold. Most of us fail to talk to people every day.
So what they expect you at Bold is to talk to 20 people every day. And then there's the thing that's called a Bold 100, is where you actually talk to 100 people about real estate in one day. And the Bold 100, they just do that to stretch your mind, because if you've done a Bold 100 once, then then 20 or 10 doesn't scare you anymore, because you know what's possible. I would even go more conservative. If you want to do only 5 a day, then do 5, but don't allow yourself to quit that day before you have spoken to 5 people about real estate. I would like to hear some thoughts from you guys. When you hear me say that, and you reflect back on what you did the last 5 days, give me some very honest comments here on how did you measure up. And I'll go first. I'll tell you, I have not generated leads every day, by a long shot. I strive for that, but I'm busy. How's everybody else doing?
I currently am in the same boat. I have not, but it's still more like database building, I guess, before I can do the, I don't want to say the mass like day touch, but yeah, that's currently where I'm at. Not quite generating leads yet.
Okay, thanks for being honest. What do you mean by database building? By what means are you building your database?
Well, I guess more so getting contacts into command, as far as like emails, addresses, anniversaries, just building in there, and then doing, automated touches through there where I can just, send out my holiday cards or, whatever. As
Okay.
far as, just building, I guess, more so in command, because I never had one in Excel either. And so that, like I said, I'm just like pretty much brand new to it. So
yeah, congrats on doing this with command. That's awesome. You're training yourself on doing it the right way. Command's incredibly powerful, and keeps growing. What you should be doing is every time you put a contact in command, you should talk to them about that. So if I hear you correctly, what you're doing is you're just doing data entry. You can hire a virtual assistant on the internet for $5 an hour to do that.
Okay.
If that is all you're doing, you're wasting your time.
Okay.
So I would suggest change that process a little bit. I don't know where your contacts are probably coming from, your sphere, your phone, or whatever. Before you put them into command, call them, tell them what's going on. You're now a real estate agent with Keller Williams. By the way, there's a script for that. Go back to the script book and introduce yourself in that capacity. And then there is a very simple conversation. You're just letting them know about that fact. And then you say, hey, if I can ask you a favor, who do you know from work or from, what you do on the weekends or from your family who is thinking about buying or selling a property? Anybody having plans for 2021? Did you hear anybody talk about it? And then they will say, oh, no, I can't think anybody about it. Okay, thank you very much for taking a second to think about. If later somebody comes to mind, would you do me a favor and let me know? And what you're doing with that is that you're planting a seed in their head that you're not going to harass them to buy or sell a house, but you're basically recruiting them because, most likely you already know them or you're friends with them or whatnot. So they're willing to, to help you out with this, and they'll keep you in mind. And hopefully, if you do the job right and you call them again after a while and ask them again, and you don't need to harass them. That's just going to be a very casual conversation. You're just checking in with them and plant that seed in their mind again. And it's not a long drawn out conversation. It's literally 20 seconds. Thank you very much for doing this. And hey, by the way, how are your kids? And so this is how you build your database, because now your database consists of people who are actually knowing that you're a real estate agent and who you're actually in somewhat of an active contact. Automation comes later. If you don't do this, you're skipping step number 1, and you can't skip step number 1. That is, if you have somebody in your database who doesn't even know that you're an agent, they're that's a dead lead. I mean, what are they even doing in your database? How's everybody else doing? I'm
I
gonna
have a
pick.
question.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Reagan.
Oh, I think I feel like I maybe need to. I've been like really focusing on Instagram just because of the people who have told me they want to buy in 2021 are all like they're all on my Instagram. I was like, this is like a great way. So I did like I guess I've been doing less like traditional like call. I for a long time when I first got my license, well, long time is relatively speaking because that was in October, but for like the first month and a half, I was DMing everyone on Facebook, hey, I'm an agent now. And I just felt like I had exhausted that list of people to DM. And because also I don't actually have most of my friends' phone numbers. Like some of my closest friends, I realized I didn't, because I don't talk to them. I like barely even text people, you know. I talk through Instagram, I talk through Facebook Messenger.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's very weird. Yeah. So I've been just like focusing on doing, I did like a survey on my Instagram feed, and I actually had like 6 friends comment. I was like, what kind of real estate content do you want to see? What scares you about buying a home? What was the other question I asked? Like, how ready do you feel to buy a home? Just like kind of like did like a thing in my story where they could fill out a poll. And I had like 6 or 7 friends who I already knew were looking in the next few years fill that out. And then my team leader did to let me know she was watching me. But then, yeah, so then I could like tailor content, and I've actually been watching them. I just posted the first 2 posts about it, and they actually like went to the post and read it and liked it. One of them even commented on the post then. So I want to do more formal, like handshakey, like talk to you, sit down, have a drink. But it just seems like with COVID right now, it's been hard to get people out of the house. So I've kind of
Right.
substituted a lot of Instagram.
Yeah, so you can do that. You're obviously very savvy and comfortable in that space. So definitely, build on that and leverage that. And I can't give you much advice on IG, but if that's what feels good to you, then keep working that way. But you need to go into volume. If you're talking to the same people over and over again, your problem should be that you don't have enough time in the day to keep in touch with everybody that you want to keep in touch with. This is great where the automation comes in, but the automation problem comes later when you have so much that you can't handle the volume anymore with automation. You have to first start out with doing this manually, because this is how you learn how to interact with people. And if you don't learn that, you'll screw up your automation later because you don't have that good sense for how to do that. That comes just from doing it over and over and over again. And take it from a guy who's an introvert and an engineer.
Yeah.
So I had a learning curve there. So you have to do that, but don't keep harassing the same 5 people.
Yeah.
You need to broaden your audience, and Instagram provides tools for that, where you just you build an audience, you grow an audience, then you keep feeding it, you retain it, and your goal ultimately is to migrate them into KW Command. So that's the same true if you use Facebook for lead generation or any other social media platform. Is number 1 is do it every single freaking day. There is just no other way to say about it. There's a great book comes to mind. I can't think of the title right now. It's about building momentum, and it's called The Compounding Effect. So it's a great little read. And what happens is for the first 6 weeks, 6 months, you don't see much of an outcome. But as you keep doing the same thing every day, things start to compounding in your favor. And this is, our job is so much a perfect example for that, in the beginning, you feel like you're grinding and grinding and grinding and you're not having any success, because there's a 6-month lag. So anything that you do will not show you results before 6 months later. So you have to keep doing that, and stick with your thing, whatever you choose for as lead generation. Stick with it, because you know it will ultimately be successful. But you can't. You have to do volume of it, and you have to do it every freaking day. That's the important thing. And then you build an audience. The goal for an online audience is that you eventually learn their name, their phone number, and their email address. And at that point, in my book, if they're willing to give that to me, then they're a lead to me. Before, they're just a stranger. They're just general public. So that's how I classify a lead. If somebody's willing to give me their email address and their phone number, I consider them a lead.
Is it late morning when you work on your lead generation?
Yeah, late morning and late afternoon, and a little bit on the weekends too. So I usually spend time for lead generating from like 11 to 1. Catching people, before at the lunch breaks, and then I also feel quite energized at around 5. So when I feel like I should be doing something, then sometimes I'm in the car just calling a few people on the way home. And here's another thing. And when you call people, first of all, it's getting increasingly difficult to call people. And if they know your number and they have you in their phone, don't be disappointed if they're not picking up. They very much realize that you called, and they will take notice of that. And so all you really wanted is to ping them, and by just a simple act of calling them, and it shows up on their phone, missed call, or maybe they saw it and didn't take it because it wasn't the right time for them. Now you have, you've made a ping in their head. So now you're there again as the real estate person, right? And that's really already 80% of the battle. And if you have a conversation with them, don't try to make it a big one. It's just the very fact that you connect with them. And even if it's only a 1 minute or 2 minute conversation, sometimes I will preface it with people is to say, hey, I just wanted to check in quickly. I don't have much time, but just wanted to see if this and that is going okay. And people ease up when you tell them you don't have much time. Because nobody has much time, and they're afraid that you're going to take half an hour from them trying to force a real estate conversation that they don't want to have. So don't do that. But keep in touch with them. If you do this on a daily basis, some people will come forward depending on your method. Some people will come forward and provide you with name, email address, and phone number. At that point, you can put them in your database, and at that point, they are one step down in your funnel, and now they get a higher level of treatment. You can send them different resources. You can send them interesting stuff. KCM is a great resource, by the way. Show of hands, who of you know what KCM is? Keeping Current Matters. No hands? Can I do a screen share? Here's KCM. Oh, I'm locked out. So KCM is a resource that produces content, and it's generic real estate content that you can use to send out to your buyers. So here, for example, you have these guides. I send them out on a regular basis. Things to consider when buying a home in winter 2020. Oh, sorry, 21 actually. So you can download that as a PDF. You can download it as a PowerPoint, put your name on it. It's about 20 pages. There's a guide for sellers. There's a guide for millennials. Take those, send those out. Those are valuable pieces of information. There are blog posts there.
Is this free, Marcus?
No, this is not free. You pay a little bit for that. I have to look how much it is. I think it's like $50.
Do you have that linked in with your Keller Williams thing or no? This is a different website. Okay, KCM.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
It says it's
it's
30 a month after
Oh, perfect,
14
yeah.
days free trial.
Thanks for looking that up quickly. I didn't even know. I don't care how much it costs because there's so much value for it. Here you got all different kinds of infographics, stuff that you can just throw on social media. So there's a massive amount of content here that you can provide for your sphere. One of my favorites here, monthly market reports. They really, so it's what Charlie is doing on a weekly basis. This is the monthly national, there's a video, you got 50 slides to download, you can reuse them. If I play this, it's going to start squawking here. So you just have, charts here. Here's what homeowners did with stimulus money. They spent the money, they saved the money, they paid down their debt. They provide information about housing market on a national basis. So there's lots of good stuff here that you can share that makes you look like an expert.
Marcus, I was wondering how you had time to create this info for your YouTube channel, but you got it from right here.
Yeah, it's still a lot of work, but that's where you can take information from. In real estate, there's nothing that you have to create. It's all it's all, what do they call it? R&D, rip off and duplicate. But yeah, highly recommend this. Keeping Current matters, and the idea is just build a funnel, whatever that looks for you on Instagram or from your sphere, and keep feeding them with information in a sensible way. Don't flood them. Think of all of you have been thinking, bought a home, sold a home, rented a home. You don't want to be flooded every day with that crap. You just want to hear, just enough that your real estate agent keeps checking in with you every 2 weeks, every month, just a little ping. That person is there. And when you need something, then you know where to go. How do I get out of screen sharing? All right. So, Grady, say that again. I can't hear you.
My apologies. I was telling my son that he had to turn down his iPad. He's on lunch from school. So I'm sorry about that.
No problem. So then the next step in your funnel is going to be setting appointments. You want to, you need to set appointments every week. If you're just sitting at home and doing your thing, you're not doing much. The ultimate goal of everything that you've done so far is to book appointments. And if you focus on working with buyers, you will find that after a while, it's not that hard to book several appointments a week for a buyer's consultation. You just start out by one. All you need is one person who is willing to spend an hour of time with you and go through your buyer's consultation. And that, make that your goal. It's not that hard. If you complete one buyer's consultation, that's minus vacations, that's like 40-45 buyer's consults a year. And if somebody sat down with you to a buyer's consult, chances are they're going to work with you. Some of them will, not follow through with buying a house. They'll change their mind, move out of the area, whatever it is. But, if you do 5 buyer's consults a month, you should have 3 closings from those 5 buyer consults, 3 months, 4 months later. So it's just a matter of getting into that rhythm, getting into that grind, providing value to people. And the biggest leading indicator would be how many buyers consultations do you have in a week. If you can manage to do 1 a week, you'll do better than most of the agents around you. And it's setting up 1 appointment per week is actually not that hard. It comes down to really, understanding that this is the ultimate goal. Once you have clarity about that, then everything else, I feel like, becomes very easy, because all of a sudden, if this doesn't help me to set an appointment, why am I even doing it?
Are there any COVID, or I should say, like quote unquote, new normal methods that you've used as far as appointments with clients? Have you seen anything be more popular, besides the Zoom calls? Like, dinner, is it more so like, grabbing a drink? Is it grabbing coffee? Is it, are there anything or methods, I should say, that have worked better for you during COVID besides just Zoom?
No, Zoom call or any other video platform that you choose.
Okay.
Nobody has time. Nobody wants to have coffee with me for, why? Would you want to have coffee with, I don't know, somebody who is selling home security systems or a mortgage lender? Why would you want to have coffee with somebody? That seems to work for some agents. I'm not so much on the warm and fuzzy side. To me, it's more like results, content, hard, tangible stuff. So if you want to stay in touch, we can do it on social media. If you actually want to talk about buying or selling a home, we'll make an appointment for buying or selling a home. We're not meeting at Starbucks. So that's either going to be in your house because we're selling your house, or we're meeting on Zoom because we're talking about the steps to buying a home.
Right.
It's don't overthink it. This is not, you don't need 10,000 different ways how to do things. It's find an audience. Think of yourself standing on a stage. That's your audience. And I don't care what your stage is. It can be open houses, it can be direct mail, it can be social media, it can be calling your sphere. Whatever the vehicle is, mentally speaking, you're on a stage, you're talking to a crowd. That's what you do. If you're not talking to the crowd, you're not working. And when you're talking to the crowd, there's people who are going to raise their hands. They're going to say, yep, I'm interested in this. And now you have one-on-one meetings with them. It's that simple. There is no, if I'm speculating here, Grady, I think that you are wondering if you need to warm them up to you. Is that what you think?
More or less, or just more so like a neutral environment, that's not just Zoom. If you are doing like a buyer consult, and you're not for sure that they're going to sign with you, they haven't, just kind of, breaking the ice more or less. If they're, new to, or you're new to a relationship, I should say, more so, especially like you said, warm up. Yeah.
Why would they not sign with you?
Not necessarily not sign with you, but, kind of like, more so break the ice, warm up, like you said, warm up to warm you. Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge it a little bit, and I mean this in a friendly way.
Oh, of course.
What would you talk to them about if not how to buy a house? If you have coffee with them, or dinner, or drinks, or a cookie.
I guess learn about them. I guess more so, show your value, that you're, not just trying to sell them something, build that relationship, I guess I should say, more so. If, You know what I mean? Like if they're,
Yeah.
you know, down the road, if they're, let's say, for instance, they have their own business and you find out about their business and you can, you know, give them referrals. Let's say they have a gym. You can give them referrals, you know, you help them out with something instead of just, you know, like, oh, you do that? That's cool. You know, well, let's get to buying the house, you know what I mean? Or selling your house, you know.
Mhm.
Building a relationship that, you know, can, I guess, more so help you with your touches too. You know, like let's say I know my client's son plays baseball. You know, I can touch and be like, hey, you know, like, are you coaching this year? Or, you know, can, you know, we stop by and watch, you know, I guess more so finding foundations, you know, what more so their background too, more learning about them.
Put yourself in the shoes of them. You know, when
Okay.
you're busy, you have a, you know, you got a son, you know, your day is full of activities. For you to take out time out of the day and meet with somebody, drive there, sit down with them, have a coffee with them, why would you want to do that? You need to have a pretty strong reason. You know, you meet with your friends because you enjoy their company. I will go as far as saying, I'm your freaking real estate agent. I'm not your friend. You know, we have a professional relationship. I'm not befriending you. In fact, I don't like doing business with friends. You know, I had a couple bad experiences there as well. And I prefer working with strangers. And why would a stranger give me an hour of their time? You know, they either have house buying on their mind or they don't. And if they have house buying on their mind, then they're like, hey, let's cut to the chase. You know, I don't want to have coffee and cookies with you and socialize. I want to learn how I buy a house. Or what do you think about the market right now? Is it a bad time? Should I wait until spring? How do I finance it? What do I do? Where do I start? Those are the questions that they have. If they want to have that conversation, you should have that conversation. If they don't want to have that conversation, they will not be interested in spending time with you. Because why would they? Why would you? You know, put yourself on the other side of it and think of you being approached by a real estate agent, because you know, put your agent hat off, and you're just Grady. And so now you have somebody who calls you, hey, Grady, do you want to, come hang out, have coffee, and maybe we'll talk about stuff. I'm like, no, dude, I'm busy. Don't have time. What do you want? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't beat around the bush. You don't have to be shy with you providing a service that is valued and thought for. People are very worried about not finding a real estate agent who really looks out for them. That is a big concern to people. So all you have to be is that person who looks after them and is educating them when they want to be educated. When they don't want to be educated, don't educate them. They don't effing care. If they don't want to buy a house, don't talk to them about buying a house right now. It's, they don't want to talk about it. Just stay in touch with them, so they know you're there, and, hold contact, and that's all you need to do. But plan your year for, to circle back to this, plan your year around those lines of thoughts. What are you going to do every day? What are you going to do every week? And everything you do has to lead to appointments. Once you have appointments, then we can talk about the next issue, which is how do you go from appointments to, Kevin's point, how to convert them. And that is a lot easier, because the goal that people have in mind when they meet with you is that you are not the goal. Their new house is the goal. And the last thing that they want to do is meet with 5 different agents. Some people are, weird in a way, and they want to do that. They can work with somebody else, not with me, please. But, most people don't enjoy interviewing 3 different agents. They just, interviewing an agent is not their goal. Buying a house is the goal. At that point, they don't really realize how important their choice of an agent is. So they're willing to, and this is good news for you if you're a beginner, they're willing to settle with pretty much anybody. As long as you show as long as you demonstrate that you care for them, that you're willing to work your butt off and really, take care, and you care for their outcome, They'll work with you. There is no conversion rate. Conversion rate is 100%. Because why would they do something else? I always tell the story, I think Celia heard me say it before, this is how I found my first real estate agent. I came to the US, my company got me a nice rental place. A year later, I decided to buy a house. So I got one of these pamphlets, I opened it up. There's like 100 pictures of agents in there. And I didn't even look at the pictures. I just started middle page on top and I started going down, called the first person, didn't answer on a Wednesday at 5:30, called the second person, didn't answer, called the third person, that was Alice Want. She was my real estate agent. Bam, decision made. Why would I keep calling other people? I don't want to interview real estate agents. I wanted to buy a house. So as long as you're not completely shooting yourselves in the foot and disqualifying yourselves completely, people will work with you because you're professional and you care and you demonstrate that you show that you're competent and you provide them good information and you ask them good questions and they get the feeling that you really want to help them be very successful in doing what they want to do. That's all there is to it. So plan your year accordingly. I want to hear some more statements quickly because I think we're running out of time. How were the last 5 or 7 days of lead generation for you? Honest assessment. I think it's good for everybody else to hear in the group.
I've done 0.
Okay.
That's where I'm struggling the most. I don't know how to lead generate.
Okay. How many people do you have in your phone?
Well, I have a lot of people in my phone, but none of them from here. I just moved here over the summer.
Okay. Where did you move from?
Oklahoma.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I can relate to that.
It's a struggle.
Yeah. It takes a while to build a base, to build a sphere.
Mhm.
So, we can take that conversation offline, but your task right now is to find a vehicle that you're comfortable with in order to get in touch with people, whatever that looks like and whatever that is. Most people have something in their life that gives them clues about either it's a hobby of yours, something that you enjoy doing, something that you're passionate about. Build it around that idea.
Well, the second half of the business planning clinic is in 20 minutes and they're starting off with lead generation. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. LA, haven't heard from you.
Yes, lead gen has been okay for me. With the group I'm in, we have an ISA lead and an agent partner. So that's helped. I've done one ISA lead an appointment so far as a new client. And I'm working on converting. I have them set up in MLS right now with the needs that they're looking for, but converting that into a signed buyer agent agreement, I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay, you'll get there. Celia.
Hi. Well, I guess most of the lead generating I was doing was through open houses, but recently I came in contact with COVID, and so I've had to quarantine and quickly realized that isn't the most lucrative way to lead generate. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, I guess. So this week, now that I'm home, can't leave my apartment, I'm focusing on reaching out to everyone in my database, make sure they know I'm a real estate agent. I don't think everyone knows.
Yeah, plus they forget.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to remind them once in a while. Josie, how was your lead gen the last 5 days? Did you get to your 5 or 10 contacts a day? Probably not.
With all honesty, no, I haven't. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask, is that when you're on a team, I just joined a team and they have their own kind of database that I'm supposed to be working on. And then you have your command, and then you've got training through your team, and then you have training with KW, that you're still supposed to maintain and keep going. It's like a lot of meetings. How do you control that? How do you put that into your thing? Because I'm like booked on all these meetings and training videos. To get the lead generation time in there. And one of my questions is, I see your recording, so are we going to have access to this?
Yeah, I'm not recording it, but
Oh, you're not?
I think Mandy is going to put it on YouTube.
Okay, great.
Yeah. How much money do you want to make ideally in a year?
Ideally, try to net 150.
Okay. Very doable. If you want to net 150, you have to do the steps that are necessary for, in terms of training and, basically grinding, that will lead to a situation where somebody's willing to pay you 150. So no, it's not easy. That is why this industry has such a huge dropout rate. I think it's like almost 90% that give up in the first year because they thought this was, a lot easier than it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is not, it's not difficult, but it's hard. You have to, be very dedicated. You have to have a strong motivation. You have to be selective with the trainings that you choose. I cherry pick. What training you need changes over time. Sometimes you have, whatever your battlefront is right now, that's what you get the training for. So if you struggle with lead gen, then focus on lead gen, on scripts, and that sort of stuff. That is your battlefront right now. I said earlier, forget the listing side and focus on the buyers. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you do both. That's a choice. And I'm sure many have been successful with that. But I would suggest to consider that, that already cuts out half of it.
Right.
And you get a focus, because otherwise you just drown in information. And it feels like that in the beginning. So, but, you'll work through that, as long as you, grind every day, 8-10 hours. If you grind 10 hours, then you'll get there faster than if you do 8. So, you're your own boss now. Nobody's going to be harder on you than yourself. And if you're not, then nobody will. So, you have nobody to blame than yourself. When it comes to how much time and energy you actually invest. And I go back to what I said earlier. At the end of the day, look yourself in the mirror and say, what have I created today in tangible results? Not busy work, looking on the MLS and looking at pretty pictures, but what have I actually completed? And you are the only one to judge you about this, because, they tell you to talk to 10 people a day. If you talk to 5, if that's your standard, then, do that. If you want to be on Instagram, then do that. You set your own goals, but just make sure you really do that, because you can earn 150,000 a year, but nobody's going to come and just hand it to you. This is how the world works. I'm not telling you anything new. You already knew that. Cool. I think we're a little over time. Any last minute questions?
I know I did send you an email requesting your scripts. And in addition to that, I did ask for all your questions that you ask yourself at the end of the day to hold yourself accountable. Because I started writing them down and I think I missed a few. So, and that's, it's great that this is being recorded and, we can go ahead and go back to. But I did ask for your own accountability questions you asked at the end of the day.
Awesome.
I'll probably add it to my daily end of the day list thing.
You have to come up with your own accountability question.
Right. But it gives me like an idea on like what I should be asking and looking forward to.
Yeah. Guys, this was fun. Sorry I wasn't prepared. I didn't know about this a couple hours ago, but yeah, I hope you got something out of it. I had fun.
I have a question. What's on your board in the back?
No. What?
What's on your board? What do you look at and focus on every day? I see a whiteboard. Is that?
I use this for brainstorming.
Mhm.
So what you see there in blue at the back, those are videos that I want to produce.
Gotcha.
So it's basically content.
Mhm.
But there's I have another whiteboard here where just scribble down notes. There's I'm trying to get away from this. There's my top active leads that I'm currently working with, but I'm pushing myself to do that entirely in command. So I'm retiring this side. There's always some big topics that I'm working on, and those big topics I have an appointment at 7 a.m. in my calendar. That's an appointment with myself, and that is just a list of 10, 12 big goals and projects that I'm working with. So every day in the morning when I have my coffee, I'm looking quickly on the news, and then I look at that appointment, and I have that running list. It's just a bullet point list with, build a new seller's guide, improve the website, do this in command. And those are just big things that I'm working on that I cannot complete in one day, but those are kind of, projects that are important for me for this quarter. So I have a little list that pops up every morning on my phone, and I look at the list and I just go through it and have my coffee and just think a little bit about it. And it helps keeping these goals in front of me. And if you want to stick a Post-it note with goals on your bathroom mirror, that's basically the same thing. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you do it.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
All right.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Appreciate you doing the launch today. It was excellent. I'll be definitely following up an email.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Well, like I said, I had fun. Nice meeting you guys. Have a great day. Make it a good one.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.